Hi everyone, how are you? Today I wanted to talk about bespoke software and the future we're seeing at Elephant Stripes about how to think about bespoke software, how to build bespoke software, and why we think it's the preferred way to go. So for the longest time, if you wanted software and you were mid-market or maybe you're a small business, you're not a Fortune 500 effectively, you probably don't want to pay enterprise prices for the outcome you need as a business. Might be a website, might be an internal wiki, whatever it is. There's a few ways about doing this, and this is generally why you would go to a digital agency and you'd get some software built. In the early days, and I might be dating myself here, early 2000s, late 90s, this invariably meant you went to a digital agency that would build you a content management system or something like that. Bespoke pieces of software. Eventually, this went away and we moved to a world of very standardized sort of software. So a website meant a WordPress site. And this is smart, right? We went from having to do everything ourselves, where there might be less ideal coding practices or it's not up to date in cybersecurity or whatever, into something that was either open source or open source backed, or a company that had an open source version of whatever they needed. And then you might use the open source version. And then if you had the money and if you thought it was worth your time, you got the enterprise version of it, and you could get really good outcomes. With the advent of AI, this has now come full circle. So we're back to the world of bespoke software. The reason bespoke software is back in vogue is because the cost of execution with software projects has fallen dramatically. You simply don't need as much money or as many people to build software because AI can do a lot of it. And if you do it right, AI will also use best practices because that's kind of what everyone does. And that's what the AI is trained on. So it knows the best practices, it uses those. And therefore you get the best of both worlds, which is bespoke software. So exactly what you need without having to cut corners from a business perspective. Small things, that's fine. You can make those changes. But with the quality that comes from knowing that, an AI built a lot of the software, so the patterns it's using are pretty validated. In terms of Elephant Stripes, we as a company went through this journey ourselves. We have a product called Video Translator, and Video Translator's website, back when I first started it, was Hugo. So it was just me at the time, so I would add blog posts via markdown files. I would run GitHub Action, and that would go into the website, and that was actually really quite good because it was easy to build. I think I built it in like 2 weeks, and this is manual coding, right? It was still really easy to do, and it was super performant because there was no backend. Didn't need one. It just needed to say what I was doing. So there was no logging in. Your surface area of attack didn't exist because it was just HTML and CSS. There were no database calls, so again, super performant. As you can probably imagine, that doesn't work once people need to log in and there's an app and things like that. You do need the database. So then we moved to something which was, I forget what front-end technology we used, but the back end was Forestry, which was a CMS that was in vogue for a while. And that actually worked quite well. It was not able to do some things we wanted, and therefore we didn't like it, and the front end was not very nice either. So eventually we did a rebrand, and when we did the rebrand, we moved to a Gatsby front end with a Strapi back end. Strapi is a great piece of software, but Gatsby, which was like Hugo, a static site generator, it kind of didn't work as well, and then the project got abandoned. I think it was a really smart approach. They tried to do a lot of things with server-side rendering, but eventually the project kind of died and support died, and it just wasn't that good. And all of this, while it worked, was never exactly what we wanted. So the start of this year, when I was just getting into vibe coding and like having a lot of fun with it, I decided, can I just build the CMS the way I want it, right? Like, never mind other people's approach. I just like to see if I could do that. And that eventually became Elephant Stripes. And that's what I wanted to talk to you about today. So what is it about Elephant Stripes that we want to work on? Today I'm going to show you how I want to fix up a couple of small things in Elephant Stripes, what it looks like to be bespoke, and what that means. So if I look at the website, it's not a bad website. We probably want to change a couple of things about it, but for the most part, it's reasonable. It does the job. I have been told we should do something else with that image, but that's all right. It has our projects. These are the public projects. Custom CMS is kind of what I'm talking to you about. We have clients who come to us and ask us for this. More often, though, we build the CMS into the app that we're giving, and that's why this is sort of here. There's some stuff about recognition, things we've done, what we've done. There's a blog, there's an about page. I'm on the about page. Awesome. So what is it that's wrong with it? First, let's look at what happens when you do a Google search. So if I do a Google search for us, you get kind of what you'd expect to see, right? What I want to do is I want to make this semantic. So you have elephant stripes at the top, and then you have all the little columns that say stuff. That's where I want to go to as a business goal. I know that there's parts of the website that aren't quite as fleshed out as I'd like, and that's what we're going to look at. Just to start, though, let's quickly look at performance. I ran this 30 minutes ago. You can see it's reasonable. The 91 isn't great, so let's look at why. The biggest part of the 91, as you can see, is there's some legacy JavaScript, there's some cache lifetimes, there's something with images, and I should look into that at some point, but I think they're just a little bit larger than they need to be. They should all be AVIF or WebP, so they're pretty performant anyways. But the biggest one is reduce unused JavaScript. And if I look at the reduced unused JavaScript, this is on PageSpeed Insights. It's one of the things we recommend you do, just a standard process. I do want to make a video about how to put that into your setup because you can use agents to fix a lot of this. Anyways, the unused JavaScript is GTag and GTM, right? So these are all Google Tag Manager. This isn't really that big a problem. And the reason this isn't that big a problem is anyone likely to visit your website has likely visited other websites with Google Tag Manager on it, and it's probably in their browser cache, right? So the 91 is a little bit inaccurate in that assume you took this away, and this is probably the biggest part of it. So that would potentially be a lot higher. But I just wanted to give you that as a starting point. Now, what is wrong with the site? Obviously, what I want to do is fix this up to be semantic, which means I need a little bit more hygiene on the site at a basic level. So let's look at the site. It's obviously in localhost, and this is what the admin section looks like, right? There's some stuff here. That's Grammarly doing something or the other, so ignore those errors. But this is what the site looks like. So it's got a home, it's got an about us, it's got projects, it's got recognition, and you'll see all of these are purpose-built for the bits that I want. So projects, recognition, blog, about. The blog is here. This also sends emails based on the blog posts that are written. It's all managed in one thing, so my staff doesn't have to go to a different place and click another button there, and you can see the contacts and the templates we use here, and there's a log here for it. Same with categories. If we look at, let's say we look at the About Us section, a lot of this, it's just JSON at the moment, and that might not be ideal, but Frankly, it's simple enough to change. My guys understand what it is. If I needed to make the UI nicer, I could. It wouldn't be hard. It was just an easy way to do it. But one of the things I've got is I've got all the on-page SEO and the JSON-LD pieces all here. And that was something that I wanted to do specifically for this project, is I was tired of having SEO and JSON-LD and not being able to see what the Twitter OG image was and all of that in different places. And that's why I wanted it all in one place. Similarly with projects, similar kind of thing. It's all here. If I look at the project records, they're all here. You can see there's no logo and all of that. It all runs on default at the moment, but we could change it if we wanted. Awesome. If I look at recognition, again, really similar kind of approach. There's a timeline section and there's an SEO section, right? All of this would never work if you would never do it like this if it was an open source project, right? Where lots of different people are going to use it. And that's kind of what I mean by bespoke. It's exactly what we need. You don't actually need to think about what's where. You just kind of go to it. Okay, so what's wrong with it? What's wrong with it is this pages section has not really been fleshed out. We've been doing consulting work for quite a while, because people will come to us and go, hey, I know you guys do stuff with agents and voice agents, and can you solve this problem for me? Awesome. But this brand is new and this website is also fairly new. You can see there's only 3 here, but that's actually not true. There's more, and that's what I wanted to fix up today. Fantastic. What does that look like? Well, the first thing I did is I did an audit. What does the audit mean? So you can see this is my elephant stripes and I've got a working directory and I'm doing some stuff. If I look at the audit, this covers current baseline. So many of the static routes, such as blog, FAQs, projects, about us, recognition, all have their own little tab in admin and you can do stuff there. Media is handled from inside categories, right? So if you go recognition, there's a media archive in there. You click on the media archive, it's a bunch of blog posts. That's why it's handled in the blog section. Contact attribution is not in pages, and both of those should be. Contact is the contact us page. Attribution is the page that tells LLMs what they can get from our site. I'll just show those to you really quickly. So if we look at the attribution side, what attribution means, short attribution, casual, content-specific attribution, generated answer attribution. The idea is any search engine or any GPT looking at this and indexing this knows where to go for the sitemap, knows how it should attribute, should it come up. We basically make it easy for the search engines to do what they need to do, and that works quite well. This is nowhere in the CMS, right? And I want it to be in here. The reason I want it to be in here is if I can get this pages hygiene good, then I can do another piece of work which will allow me to make all the SEO semantic, right? And the semantic is how Google makes the little boxes that say what's where. We should probably also add like a pricing section at some point, but that's getting ahead of ourselves. So that's what I want to do. Now, if I'm looking at this, so this audit told me where there's bits that are wrong, right? So in site settings, we're not really falling back on things nicely. There is bits of drift here and there. We're not using the 404 page as nicely as we should. Little things, relatively speaking, but people look at this as, the first interaction they have with our work quite often, and therefore you want it to be of certain quality. Next, I did a deep dive, which is here. And you can see in the deep dive, I sort of had it go through each and everything and validate what it's doing, etc., and what I wanted for this to look like. Why am I showing you this? When you're building or vibe coding solutions yourself, and this is kind of the beauty of bespoke software, you have a rough idea of what's wrong, and that's my SEO CMS drift audit. then I create a new document that says, do a deep dive and investigate this thoroughly, right? And that's where it comes up with all of this. So here you can see on a page by page basis, it's validated what's going on. It's validated where things should be, what should they contain, with immediate target set of the pages should be privacy, website, contact, newsletter, attribution. Newsletter is the link where people can go to sign up to the newsletter. It should take out some of the old ones which are still there, which are handled elsewhere and are currently hidden. So this is what I mean by hygiene. And once we have this lot in pages correctly, we're going to be able to make sure that our SEO is good across the board. Right. Once you do this deep dive, the thing you want to do next is an implementation plan. So here you can see an implementation plan, right? So first we've got phase 0, then we've got phase 1, then we've got phase 2, all these different phases. Now, I haven't done this yet, but generally what I would do with an implementation plan is something like this. I'd say, first, check with me, are there any blockers? Do you need any clarifications? Okay, the assumption is no, fine, next step. Now, after each phase, write a change log, fill in just below in this section what's going to happen. So at the end of, say, phase 2, we'll have something here that says what was completed in phase 2, right? Then make sure you've added any fixes you've had to do at a database level. Because keep in mind, there's going to be little bits of SEO here and there on all these pages that currently don't exist in the database. So we're probably going to need to do a migration and fill that in. I don't want to do that myself, so I'm just going to note it down here. And then I'm going to say make a commit into the specific branch that we're in, and that's going to do that. So with each phase, I'll have that. So the entire work now is rough idea what's wrong, deep dive into what's wrong, implementation plan, and then you hit a button and it does the entire implementation plan, and your job is doing a lot of testing and making sure things are fine. And that's how we're going to solve this bit of problem. What I'm trying to get across to you is how simple bespoke software can be. I don't need it to do many things. I don't need it to do many things for many people. I can make it exactly the way I want, and it's fine. It's cheaper, it's simpler, and because of the speed of AI, it's a lot faster. I would recommend to people who are looking at different pieces of software that build the exact thing you want. One major benefit of doing it this way is in the process of building it, you tend to understand your problem a lot better than you did in the past, right? And this fleshes it out. And often you get a lot of wins as through just going through the process. What earlier would have been really hard is now quite complex. Both these documents, I don't know, I made them in 15 minutes, right? You tell it what you want, then you go look at it and you make sure it's good. I'll get to flesh out the implementation, and then I'll hit a button and I'll walk away or wander away and do other things while it does it, and then I'm just testing it. So I just wanted to show you what it looks like after this is done. So you can see here that it ran for 27 minutes and 28 minutes essentially, and it went through all the different phases and finished up with quite a large number of code changes. If we look at the implementation plan now, you can see that we had phase 0, and then there's notes, there's validation, there's completion notes, and there were no DB changes. Then phase 1 starts, data shape, validation, completion notes, no DB changes. And you can see how it's gone through each of these phases and it's finished the work it needed to. Here, there's obviously quite a lot of DB changes. And the completion notes, the other thing you can look at, and we use docs changelog, you can see each phase has its own changelog. Now, a slightly nicer way of doing this could potentially be saving some of these change logs bulk up in GitHub or in the somewhere else, maybe compacting them. We keep change logs like this. I think it's a pretty good strategy, not least because then the changelog.md is just one line with allows you to search relatively quickly and then go look at the deeper one without it getting too long. And you can see quite a lot of changes have happened. This is what I mean by hygiene often when I speak of code hygiene, keeping all these things. Another thing that is pretty important is having nice runbooks. But I wanted to show you what this looked like when it was done. And the thing I want to show you now is this is how it's changed. So now we have pages and we've got all of these, and each is kind of its own. I asked it for just JSON, so it doesn't need a whole heap more. You can see here there's a couple of things missing that I would like to fill in, and this will be backfills and things like that. Again, with attribution, all these pages are pretty reasonable. I think it's done a relatively good job. We'll fill in all these later on, but yeah, so now this gives me the ability to have everything quite nice in the sense of what we need. The other piece that I think was important was this 404s. And here, this has been made a little bit better. We didn't particularly need that functionality at the moment, but it's good to see that it's there. If I have a look at that particular phase, and you can see quite a lot happened here. It added the SEO head. It's made it a little bit nicer. But yeah, I just wanted to show you what it looked like. And as a result, we're pretty much done with what we wanted to do. But we've redone this in such a way that now we have good SEO, or the ability to add that in. The hygiene is quite good, which means as the next step, we can then go through and push up all of this into prod and then move to cleaning this up and adding semantic SEO. I hope that was helpful, just in terms of what the process is and how it does the work. And you can set up these long running tasks, and things work pretty well when you do that. So let me go away and